Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Special Agent David Donati. And while Mr. Donati is walking up to be sworn in, we've already put People's Exhibits 281 through 289 in the witness stand. They're photographs.
Okay. Sorry, Special Agent Donati, if you would raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony that this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Doing fine.
Thank you. Good. Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and then spell your name for the record?
My name is David Donati, spelled D as in David, O-N-A-T-I. I'm a special agent with the FBI.
How long have you been with the FBI?
For 12 years now.
What are your responsibilities with the FBI?
Well, I've worked in a lot of different places. Currently, I work in the Minneapolis division doing criminal investigations. I started off my career in Lander, Wyoming, which is an RA or resident agency on the Wind River Indian Reservation. I spent 3.5 years there, and then I came to Colorado Springs and spent about 5 years here.
What were the years that you were in Colorado Springs?
2015, probably from April of 2015 to September of 2020.
All right. What kind of cases have you investigated?
I've done a multitude of things, everything mostly in the violent crime aspect, everything from bank robberies to missing persons, homicide investigations, kidnappings, bank robberies.
Okay. What kind of training do you have that allows you to be a FBI agent?
To be an FBI agent, you attend the New Agent Academy, which is about 20 weeks at Quantico, Virginia. There we learn a series of different things, everything from interviewing to collecting of evidence to all the other duties that a special agent does. I've also attended other training during my service with the FBI, which is helps you to be better at your job and continuing training as collecting evidence and interviewing people.
As it relates to the case that we're here for, how did you become involved in the investigation into Gannon Stauch's disappearance?
Early on in the investigation, we were contacted by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office about a missing juvenile, and they asked our office to assist. And at the time, I was assigned as the case agent to help with that assist.
Did you at some point assist removing some items from a VW Tiguan?
Yes, I believe that was on February 7th of 2020.
So let's talk about the Tiguan, at least as far as you knew it. Did you understand that to be associated with the defendant in the case?
Yes, I understood it to be the vehicle that that she owned and that she drove.
What were you tasked to do as it relates to that particular vehicle?
On that particular vehicle, I was tasked to assist. I had other people that helped me collect the what is called the telematics system from the vehicle. And that's several different components that has the ability to store data of the vehicle while it's being operated.
Specifically, what kind of data were you looking for or hoping to get out of the telematics?
Well, every vehicle is different. Every manufacturer is different. But we do know that these systems do store everything from dates and times to actual GPS coordinates. And some vehicles do also store things like when the vehicle was in motion, when the vehicle was stopped, different systems on the car running, things like that. So like I said, depending on what that vehicle manufacturer and that data consisted of, it can tell you a lot. And some vehicles, it doesn't tell you much.
What does that process look like, removing the telematics from a vehicle?
So the telematics systems can be stored in several different places. There is items that are called the infotainment system, the electronic control modules that store this information. In this particular vehicle, there were 3 different items that we were looking for, and most of those are contained in the dash or under the dash somewhere.
Were you able to find those particular items for this particular vehicle on that February 7th date?
We did. We collected 3 different items from the vehicle, and that involved removing some sections of the dash to get to those.
Do you yourself then analyze those components to get this data that you're looking for or hoping to get?
No, that is then, what I do is I collect those components as evidence. I enter them into our computer, and then I put them in FedEx shipping and ship them to Virginia, our headquarters, where the experts can then analyze the data.
Okay, is that what you did in this case?
I did.
So I want to direct your attention to the photographs that I put on the desk there in front of you. It should be People's Exhibits 281 through 289. Do you see those?
Yes, I do.
Will you please flip through those and then let me know when you're done looking at them?
I'm done.
Do you recognize those photographs?
I do.
What are they of generally?
So the photographs of the Volkswagen Tiguan that I believe to be owned and driven by the defendant, it was located in the El Paso County's vehicle bay where they store their evidence.
And are those photographs fair and accurate representations as to what you saw and in the removal process of this infotainment center?
Absolutely, yes.
Sorry.
I actually took these photographs as we removed them from the vehicle.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, I'd move for admission and permission to publish 281 through 289.
Defense,
No objection.
281 through 289 will be admitted. Are you good?
Thank you. We're connected back over here now, Judge. In just a moment, we're going to be projecting 281 up behind you. And just as a housekeeping matter, there should be a pointer there in the witness box and a telescoping pointer
Okay.
of some kind. You can either use that to point at the photograph itself, or you can just describe it by looking at the photo in front of you.
Okay.
Either one that you want to use. So we've got 281 up behind you. So let's look at the left side first. That's what looks like a shipping label. What is that?
That is exactly what you said. It's a FedEx shipping label where I package the items, use the FedEx computer system and entered the information on where I wanted to send it to. And I believe the date on that was February 10th, if that, it's hard to see on the screen, but it's the shipping date.
And it's kind of awkward the way that we've got to do this. So if you stand up and, oops, go back, please. If you stand up and are talking about what's in the photograph, just make sure that our furthest jurors can hear you. The microphone doesn't pick it up very well.
Sorry about that. So this is the shipping label that I used, and I believe the date was February 10th when I shipped it out.
Is it typical to collect items and then ship them out a couple of days later?
It is. One, I have to enter everything into the computer. That document has to be signed by my supervisor before I get the numbers, which are our tracking, our evidence tracking ability. So sometimes that takes a day or 2 days. Then I can package it up and send it out for FedEx.
How is it stored in the meantime?
Our facility is a controlled storage for evidence collection.
Is there any opportunity for the data that's on these devices to be altered or changed while you're waiting that shipment process?
No, there's not.
Okay. And then on the right side of People's Exhibit 281, is that the vehicle?
Yes, this is the 2019 Volkswagen Tiguan that I believe the defendant to be driving.
Was that belief based off of information that you had gathered during the course of this investigation?
It was.
All right, 282? What's in 282?
In this picture, we're more centered on this, the glove compartment area. And this would be the information electronic control module that will be removed. It sits right here. It has kind of a plastic cover, but once we remove it, I think there's another photograph of that.
When you're going through this process, are you basically just gaining access to the thing and then unplugging it and pulling it out?
Yeah, there's basically, that's it. In some situations, like around a display module, there's molding that comes on everybody's dash that is popped out or removed. It's usually in by clips. Every once in a while, there's a screw or something like that that needs to be removed.
And then just so that we're understanding what's happening in this photograph, why does it appear that there's white powder on everything in there?
This vehicle had gone through a previous evidence collection, and I forget what the name of that is, but that's like a luminol.
Blue Star?
Is Blue Star.
Okay.
That's used to under lights to detect evidence of other types of evidence like blood or other things like that.
So is that basically just the residue of the Blue Star, what it looks like once it dries?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
283?
And this box here, the front is what you saw in the other picture would be on this side of this silver box. And then all the cables come like very similar to a computer component. They can be unplugged and pulled out.
Did you in fact unplug this unit and pull it out? And that's one of the things that was shipped off to Quantico, Virginia?
Yes.
All right. 284?
And this is the item sitting on the bench top just to get a better focused picture of it.
Same item that was in.
Same item that we've just talked about.
Okay, perfect. 285?
This is the infotainment display. This is usually on vehicles where your radio is seen, or if you have a backup camera, things like that. So this piece that is removed here was the venting above it, and the piece that we are collecting as evidence is this display system. You see a knob right here.
Okay. 286?
This is the back of that unit. The face would be facing the gear shift right there.
So is that on the face that's sort of facing down towards the gear shift, or is that basically that touch screen that's in a lot of modern cars?
Exactly. It's a touch screen that, like I said, usually allows you to change the radio or do the air conditioning, a lot of other features. Some of them have mapping systems, things like that.
287?
This is a little bit harder to see, but this would be the emergency call module. It is located inside the dash behind the steering wheel.
Okay.
You'll see a better picture when we actually get it out.
288?
And this is that same item, the emergency call module.
So that comes out of the left side of the dashboard, left of the steering wheel?
It comes out of I couldn't tell you exactly which side of the steering wheel from memory, but yes, it's the left side. It's the driver's side of the vehicle, kind of back behind the steering wheel. So you had to remove some components of the dash to get to it.
And then that should be 288. That's up there now. So let's look at 289.
And this is that same item on the table where you can see it a little bit better.
Okay, you can go ahead and sit back down. So tell the jury, you mentioned that this will go into a temporary storage at your facility and then you will package it up to ship it. How do you ensure that what you're shipping and what is received is the same thing?
Good question. We have several ways of doing that. We have an evidence tracking form that goes with it that talks about who handled that product. But the items itself actually get packaged inside a box. It gets the red evidence tape over the top so that during shipping, there's anybody that would tamper with it, that tape would be ripped, the box would be open. So we can say that if it gets there and that tape is secure, that the item was not tampered with during shipment.
Once an item gets analyzed, do you know what happens with the data that may or may not come off of these units when you ship them off to Quantico?
Whenever that evidence is finalized and they get some information off, they would then send it back to us in a similar manner. It would be packaged with red evidence tape and put in FedEx and sent back to us.
If there is location data that's included in the data that's pulled off of that, is that made available to other members of the FBI to potentially map that information?
Yes. So when they pull that information off, they can send it to us. That helps us because we're in the middle of an investigation. And as soon as we can get that information, it definitely helps us quicker. A lot of times we get information sent via email or something like that. It would show us data points or GPS coordinates that we could plot on a map on a computer system and overlay it with like something that you'd be familiar with is like Google Maps with different points plotted on it.
Did that happen in this case where information came back from Quantico with location data for this particular vehicle?
It did. It came back relatively quickly, but that information is kind of raw data, and they tell us that it's not has not been certified or verified yet. So they tell us to look at it and use other means to try to corroborate that information. But I did get the data points early on in the investigation.
Did you give that information then to Special Agent Kevin Hoyland to go through that mapping process that you just described?
Yes, I did.
And do you know whether that was successfully done or not?
Yes, it was successfully done.
Okay. Your Honor, may I have just a moment?
Minute.
That's all I have.
No
Cross-examination?
questions. No questions, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Special Agent Donati? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
We'll call Special Agent Dwight Falkowski. I'm going to place this on the witness stand. Go ahead and pull those photos out.
Okay.
Aaron, before Mr. Falkowski takes the stand, would it be possible for defense and I to approach just briefly?
Oh, sure. All right. Agent Delkowski, if you would raise your right hand, please, sir. Step on up a
Yeah,
little
you can
bit
come
more.
right up in here.
It's all right. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Dwight Falkowski. Last name is spelled Falkofske.
Mr. Falkowski, who do you work for?
I work for the FBI.
What do you do for the FBI?
I work as an automotive forensic specialist, and I want to expound on that.
Yes, please.
So that involves taking parts from vehicles, cars that have been that are brought to us, and we go in and find the data inside the vehicles, and we extract the data and then recraft it into a format that's human readable, so we can find out stuff that the car has contained, such as location data or phones or devices that have been connected to the car and the data associated with those things.
All right, so what kind of training allows you to do that job?
I'm an electrical engineer by a bachelor's of science from Virginia Tech. I have other items on my CV that I could put out for you for FBI training if you'd like.
Sure, yeah, so let's start with that, the FBI training.
Okay, let me pull out my CV.
Okay,
Okay, with the FBI, I've taken DEMS training, that's Digital Evidence Management Systems, digital evidence handling, legal ethics training, CDART mentorship and proficiency testing. That is a specialized internal thing. A little explanation there is previously I worked for the FBI as a contractor that allowed contractors to handle evidence in their facility. And also I have testified as an expert witness now twice.
okay. How long have you, you said, I think, an electrical engineer? How long have you been an electrical engineer?
My degree was from Virginia Tech in 1992.
Okay. What's your investigative experience? How many different investigations have you been involved with?
More than I can contend with at the moment. I have an estimate on my CV. Like, one moment.
Sure.
Let's see. I've listed over 70 devices that I've examined since 2018.
Okay. What kind of devices have you examined? And I'm not asking you to give us an exhaustive list, but just a generalized idea of what kind of devices that you've worked on in your role as an FBI agent.
Okay, I'll give you the primary two pieces that I typically see from vehicles. And one is the infotainment system, which is the center portion of your car that provides you with information about, like, if you're navigating or what music you're playing, that hardware. Also, another piece of hardware that we pull from the cars is a telematics device. This is a piece that typically talks back to the corporation that's providing connected services.
Okay. And you mentioned that you've testified as an expert witness. What jurisdictions were those expert witness testimonies provided in?
Both were in South Carolina.
Okay. Was that with the Alex Murdaugh case?
Yes, one with the Murdaugh case.
Okay. What was your assignment back in 2020? Same assignment as what you're testifying to today?
Clarify, please.
What was your assignment with the FBI in 2020?
In 2020.
Yes.
So 2020, I was doing the same work as a contractor with
Okay.
the FBI.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to work on some devices as it relates to the Gannon Stauch investigation?
Yes.
Before I do that, Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to qualify this witness as an expert witness in automotive forensic specialists.
Defense?
I don't have an objection, that's fine.
All right, the witness will be so qualified. Go ahead.
So as it relates to the devices that you examined in this case, what devices did you look at?
There were 4 pieces that I examined, and I have, I don't have the list of them in front of me, but there were 4 pieces from the vehicle. I knew that some pieces that we had worked on were not valuable in extracting data from, but there were one in particular, the infotainment system from that car was probably the primary one we looked at.
Okay. When you say 4 pieces, does that mean that one of the modules had an SD card in it or something like that, that expanded it out to 4?
No,
Okay.
the 4 physical pieces, and it should be listed in the hardware list or on the in the evidence that I've provided, the digital evidence, derivative evidence. There are 4 listings there, and it shows explicitly on each piece what was provided, and it includes pictures.
Okay. And then as it relates to your work, did you have 2 different efforts towards gathering this information? One that was an initial uncertified basically result, and then a second that was more in-depth?
Yes, so I'll go ahead and explain the situation around that, if that's okay.
Yes.
So it came to us initially as an active search for a missing child, and in which case we prioritized something like that and put it, we're working on that now. And so when we initially got the pieces in, it was from a vehicle that we had not previously looked at, so we had no idea of what it might contain or the data in it. So we provided a very fast analysis on the system at that point and was able to extract location data out of that vehicle. But then part of our standard process is when we develop tools to get data off of vehicles, we have to validate them later, which requires a much more exhaustive effort to show that the data that we're putting on a system is exactly what we're getting off. So when I say this data point represents the vehicle in this location, that is accurate. So it took us an additional approximate year or so to finish that validation process.
Okay. So when you have that initial effort that you get that unvalidated data, what did you do with it, that unvalidated data?
We provided it as preliminary data back to the field.
Okay. And then that secondary effort that you mentioned was roughly a year down the road from that first effort. Was that data, did that basically validate all the data, including the data that you had sent the first time?
That's correct. And there were also, I believe there was a little bit of additional data provided as we found more data on the system over time.
Okay. was there any discrepancy in the data? And what I mean by that is that the initial data that you provided early on, was any of that data that you provided to the investigation proven wrong based on the secondary release of data?
No, that data proved accurate.
Okay. So when we're talking about the item that was given fruitful information towards this investigation, what was that particular device?
The head unit, there was 4 devices. I believe it's the item that ends with 04. Is that
Well,
what you're looking?
you're the expert. I can't,
Okay, I
I
actually.
don't,
look
I
at
don't
the
know
list
where
of-
it came from. All I know is it magically appears.
All right, give me a moment. Let me pull out some
Okay.
records and so I can find what we're looking for. Okay, I do have the list here.
Okay.
So you want me to go through all 4 pieces or just this one?
Well, so let me ask you just a clarifying question before we go
Okay.
down that path. Did you look at all of the items that you received from Colorado Springs to see if there was going to be any useful information on all of them?
Yes, we evaluated each piece.
And then through that evaluation, did you determine, based on what you've already said, that only one was going to provide any useful location data?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's talk about that one then.
Okay.
What particular item are we talking about that provided useful location data for this investigation?
Okay, it was the information ECM, that's electronic control module, basically the head unit that I explained before, from a 2019 Volkswagen Tiguan,
Who did you receive these items from?
from our internal evidence control facility.
Okay, but when you get it from your internal evidence control facility, can you tell like what case it's being sent from?
The case number is with it, yes.
Okay, and can you verify that it belongs to a Volkswagen Tiguan that was seized in Colorado Springs as opposed to, let's say, Seattle, Washington?
Yes, we have a chain of evidence maintained in the digital evidence management system.
And the information that we're talking about here, was that in relation to this specific case that we're having you testify on?
All right, I'm sorry, say it one more time.
The evidence that we're talking about here, the
Yes.
location data that you were able to pull, can you verify that that information relates to our case that you're testifying in today?
Yes.
Okay. So tell the jury, how do you get the information off of this electronic control module head unit?
You want to go into specifics?
Tell the
Okay.
jury how that works.
I'm going to pull out my notes from that. Okay, when I'm processing the evidence, this is what we did to this particular piece of evidence. We first labeled the evidence with the evidence item number and took photographs of it in its state as received. Then we disassembled the specimen, removed the circuit boards, and removed some of the memory flash chips from the circuit board that was inside. And from the flash chips, then we were able to read those flash chips using a tool so that we would have what was a binary image provided that represents the data that was inside those flash chips. Now that data is in a digital format, readable by computers and not necessarily understandable by humans. And so this is where our processes continue.
So let me break in there just so that we're understanding.
Okay.
When you say that you pull a chip off and then you read it, do you mean that you're physically looking at it and reading information off of it?
We have specialized tools that access the chip and can read the chip in its proper protocols to be able to pull the data off correctly.
And were you able to successfully do that in this particular case?
Yes, for 2 chips.
For 2 chips off of this electronic control module circuit board?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you then look at the data before you send it back to the investigative arm or area?
Yes. So this case, at this point in the stage, you've only got a binary image with no understanding of what the data means.
Okay.
And so there was processing performed at this point.
So tell us about the processing.
Okay. So part of this is we were able to extract logical file systems from the image. And from the logical file systems, we combed the files that we found for information that might be related to location of the vehicle, because that was stated as an item of interest. And from that, we found One moment. We quickly found that there was some location data available in some computer logs that were on there in a textual format that were very easy to access, which allowed us to quickly, within one day, write a parsing tool that would go out and pull that data from those logs. And that data was represented with coordinates and timestamps.
And when you say coordinates, do you mean like GPS coordinates,
Yeah, geocoordinates.
geo coordinates?
Yeah.
When you get those geo coordinates out of that log that you're describing, what do you do with it?
So we prepare it into a format that is usable for us humans. I can give you a coordinate, but then you're going to have to go out and type those coordinates into a thing like Google Earth to be able to see them. So we take that and provide, the parser takes the information and puts it into a file that you can just throw into Google Earth. It's called a KML file. And that file will automatically populate the locations and times of the vehicle on a map.
Okay. So how do you get that information back to the originating investigative region?
So in this case, we also provided let me just add there, because of the nature of the search, we went ahead and looked at some of the data and provided a PDF as well, along with the KML file to say, here's some points of interest you may want to go look at. And that was, I'm just seeing which method was provided back. It was provided back to the field. I believe that was over electronic communication.
Okay. Do you know who you provided it to?
So I wrote down here the case agent, which I guess at the time that might have been Donati.
Okay. So Special Agent David Donati?
Yes.
Okay. What day did you provide that to him? Do you have that information?
I have the date that I had the review. February 12th, 2020.
Okay. And then is it common for field agents to then potentially give that information to other potential experts, FBI or not FBI, to then do some sort of mapping with this data that you're providing?
Absolutely. It's their call what they do with the data.
Okay. The should be up there on the desk with you. I put the exhibit envelope. Should be People's Exhibit 291. Do you see that?
This thing?
Yep.
Okay.
You see that? Do you recognize it?
Is there something inside I need to look at?
Well, do you recognize it or not?
I do not.
Okay. Do you remember, did you put the information on some sort of a card, or SD card or something like that?
I put on an SD card, yes.
Okay. The information that was contained in that SD card, was that provided back to the field to Special Agent David Donati?
That was provided, yes, at a later time.
Okay. How was that provided to him?
Okay, so that, as I was speaking earlier, we had about a year's time pass where we provided the validation of the data. So when our evaluation of the whole process was complete to our satisfaction, then we provided this evidence in totality and in confidence back to the field through the SD card.
Okay. And so what we have in People's Exhibit 291, is that the information that you provided back to the field based on your extraction of the data from those modules?
I see it says SD card, but I don't see the SD card here. So,
Okay. So do you remember prior to you getting on the stand, me asking if you'd had a chance to look at this item or?
I looked at the SD card and I initialed the SD card. Is that not available?
Okay, so that should be in that envelope.
In
there.
the envelope.
Yes,
Okay, I just
yeah.
wanted to check.
There should be some scissors there to your left.
Okay. I will open the envelope.
Yep.
Ah, there we go.
Is that what you looked at?
That is what I looked at.
Okay.
This is the evidence we provided.
All right.
Did not recognize the package it was in.
Okay. So is that the same SD card that was provided in this investigation that contained that location data that you sent back to the field investigator, Special Agent David Donati?
Yes.
Is it fair and accurate representation of that data that you recovered from that electronic control module back on February 12th of 2020.
Yes, I verified it just shortly before
Okay.
this meeting.
Your Honor, at this time, I move forward admission of People's Exhibit 291.
Defense?
Can I ask just what your, a couple questions?
On authenticity? Yes,
The
go ahead.
exhibit.
Go ahead.
Yes. Special Agent, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Just quickly, this SD card information you have, is this the verified stuff that came approximately a year after February 2020?
That's correct.
Okay, this isn't the initial.
This is not the preliminary data.
Okay,
It does include the preliminary data that we provided at that time as well.
okay. And how is the preliminary data different from the final data that you got at a year later?
So the preliminary data was what we initially found during a compressed timeline to try to locate a missing child. And later on proved to be accurate in its totality. There were some potential additions to the data as we continued to process it over that year.
Okay. Were there any discrepancies or inconsistencies between the preliminary data and the final data that was published or released a year later?
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't have an objection.
All right, Exhibit 291 will be admitted. Mr. Allen, go ahead.
And that was the, some of my questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cook?
No, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Agent Falkowski? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Before you get down, we just put that SD card back.
It is in the envelope, but it's not sealed. Here's.
Council approach for a moment.